What up, AOK Mafia? It's your boy Artofkickz, and just like that, we back with another one. Alright, y'all, so Unexplained Mysteries. Got one of their older videos here, but one I haven't seen. This is 5 mysterious anomalies and individuals that science can't explain. This should be interesting. That boys, girls ready? I'm ready. Let's go. Ooh, this is gonna be good. I know it. I know it.
The Box of Ezekiel. Back in 2013, a Redditor that went by the username of TramStopDan was passing by a trash bin and noticed a strange wooden suitcase sticking out noticeably in the bin. Intrigued by this peculiar find, he quickly pulled the wooden suitcase out of the trash and began digging through its contents to uncover anything important that had been tossed. He realized that the old wooden suitcase appeared to be filled with hand-drawn maps with incredible detail, drawings of mechanical devices, strange images of what appeared to be an extraterrestrial event, and pages of writings that talked about a possible government conspiracy, cover-up, and alien sighting. The Redditor spent a few days poring over these pieces on his own before posting his findings to the site in the hopes of finding others who could help to explain what he had found and what all of it meant. It did not take long for the community to respond, and each make their own connections to the work to realize its purpose. It became known that the writings were making references to an old biblical story known as the Book of Ezekiel. The contents of the suitcase appeared to be a brand new conspiracy theory made by one person who was obsessed with this biblical book and believed the events of the story to have been that of an alien encounter. Though this secret held no government cover-up or proof of the extraterrestrial event, it was an impressive amount of work and dedication that most can look at and appreciate in its own special way.
Fascinating.
When the ancient Greek civilization first journeyed to Egypt and laid witness to its incredible methods of construction, megalithic structures, advanced cities and technologies, and incredible strides in mathematics and philosophy, not only were they completely intrigued by this, but they quickly worked to try to classify what they saw and provide it with the names we know today. When the ancient Greeks came across the large stone structure that depicted a lion with the face of a man, reminding the Greeks of the stories of the Sphinx recorded in the struggle of Oedipus, they quickly named the structure the Sphinx as an ode to their own culture seen in the Egyptian culture. However, outside of this original encounter, nothing else was known about the strange structure. In fact, new evidence and research today has found that it could very well be possible that the Sphinx structure itself is far older than supposed Egyptian writings and documents proclaim it to be. So, today, we will be going over this evidence regarding the Sphinx and asking ourselves the question: does the Great Sphinx of Egypt predate the Egyptian civilization itself? One of the main reasons for why the Sphinx has been dated its current age of being only 4,511 years old is not due to carbon dating or other reliable efforts made to accurately measure its date, but rather because of ancient Egyptian hieroglyphics and documents that detail that the Sphinx was supposedly created during the reign of Egypt's 4th dynasty. Unfortunately, it was recently discovered that these documents could very well not be legitimate, and that the pharaoh of the 4th dynasty forged them for the sole purpose of taking credit of another past pharaoh's work, a common practice amongst pharaohs to rewrite history and take the honor of a past pharaoh's lifelong efforts. This was discovered not by taking a closer inspection at the Sphinx, but rather discoveries made in the tombs of long-deceased kings of Egypt. Originally a theory posited by the groundbreaking author Robert Temple, there appeared to be overwhelming evidence that the Sphinx we know today was actually an attempt made by a pharaoh of the 4th dynasty to do nothing more than to claim the works of those before him. Evidence for this can be found when analysing the head-to-body ratio. In fact, the head on the Sphinx is so small that many had often believed upon first sight that it could have been grinded down from a much more massive structure. The second piece of evidence is provided by the hieroglyphics located at the Temple of Teptufa that outline in great detail that the original god of ancient Giza was Anubis, and the—
Wait a minute. The Sphinx head is small? All my life I thought that thing was huge. But the head to body ratio, because supposedly the Sphinx body is in underground. So if the body is much bigger underground than the proportion of the head, then yeah, it's a possibility that they could have carved the new head out of the old one.
Counts and images of Anubis in his jackal form are drawn all throughout the site in the same pose as of the body of the Sphinx, with no mention of a lion of any kind at the ancient city. Interestingly enough, this exact same pose was discovered in one of the only tombs of an Egyptian pharaoh ever discovered that had been completely undisturbed since his burial, the tomb of Pharaoh Tutankhamun. Within King Tut's tomb is a shrine to Anubis that demonstrates an exact scale of the Sphinx statue, but with the head of a jackal to represent Anubis, showing in overwhelming evidence that the original statue at the ancient city of Giza was supposed to be that of a jackal-headed Anubis.
Yo, is this really how this thing looked? This looks phenomenal. This looks absolutely amazing.
And not that of a lion body with a human head. So where do we get the idea of a human head and a lion body?
Right.
The truth is, the only reason why the statue is referred to as a sphinx is because of old Greek mythologies, such as those of Oedipus, that talk about a lion with the head of a man, called a sphinx, but no such symbol exists in that of ancient Egypt.
What?
This means that the hieroglyphic texts that describe the Sphinx with a human head to represent the pharaoh of the 4th dynasty was nothing more than a forgery by the then pharaoh to take credit for a great statue of which he had not created or designed. In fact, a pre-dynastic pharaoh gives a great account about providing his royal dog a grand burial at the site of ancient Giza. In this text, his argument for why he had such a royal burial for what has been speculated to be his guard dog was due to his want and need to have the dog buried before the great god Anubis. Not only definitively proving that the Sphinx was originally that of the god Anubis in the jackal form, but also that the...
Wait, then that doesn't make sense what I said then. That the Sphinx body is underground. Makes no sense if this is what we're seeing here. Where did I hear that information from? Because this looks like the Sphinx is laying on the ground. But it's very clear that the head is exponentially smaller than the body. Look at the arms and what looks like could be paws of a lion, which we've just been told that that's not the case at all. It's not a lion's body with a man's head, or a man's head on a lion's body. But goodness, yeah, that head is so much smaller. Why is that head on this type of body though? What body is that if it's not a lion?
Structure itself was created during the pre-dynastic times, long before any pharaoh could claim ownership of its creation. This could very well mean that not only was the creation of the Sphinx older than that of the dynastic reigns of Egypt, but that perhaps the structure is older than the Egyptian civilizations themselves. Further evidence of this theory can be found when analysing the recent archaeological finds of strange bones discovered all throughout ancient Egypt. It is well known amongst Egyptologists that the ancient Egyptians treasured animals of all kinds, believing them to be the representation of their gods.
The Sphinx could be older than the Egypts themselves, or the Egyptians themselves, I meant to say. And maybe they carved that head just to kind of, like he said, gain ownership of that Sphinx. That would be crazy to think. That makes so much sense though. Oh, we're just gonna carve the head out of this thing to make it seem like this is our doing.
It is due to this obsession that strange structures and bones from animals all around the world, even from areas previously believed to not have been operating open trade routes, have surfaced all across ancient Egyptian cities. Described as Egyptian zoos, strange hieroglyphics and designs have come forward showing evidence that not only were the early Egyptians capable of owning strange beasts from around the world, but that they possibly possessed an extinct species of woolly mammoth. Dubbed as the world's first zoo, a 6,000-year-old ancient Egyptian cemetery was uncovered filled with the remains of wild animals from all around the world that should have been unable to collect from the reaches of early man for thousands of years to come. Skeletons of ostriches, crocodiles, leopards, and other exotic animals were found alongside pools of water, large fenced-in cages, and a potential animal hospital filled with removed molars, teeth, claws, and evidence of animal surgeries. Though the importance of animals regarding the Egyptian religion was widely known, the evidence of the global reach of the species available to them, including species long believed to be extinct, has been a mystery that even the most elite of archaeologists and Egyptologists have failed to explain.
Man, that is so fascinating. And look at these carvings, man. They look so nice. They look so good, like professionally done. But going back on what he said there, to think that back then the Egyptians could have had zoos and animal hospitals. How civilized were they?
This is odd, though mostly due to the fact that it is widely believed by historians and archaeologists all around the world that the oldest civilization to exist was merely 10,000 years old. However, evidence in the fossil record shows that the modern-day intelligent human has been around for more than 50,000 years. So why is it then that the oldest cities don't start appearing until the past 10,000? It might have to do with the evidence of the extinct animals recorded at Egypt. The woolly mammoth was one of many distinct megafauna that went extinct at around the same time in the fossil record, merely 10,000 years ago. These extinct species included the mastodon, short-faced bear, the giant ground sloth, and many others. In fact, when Charles Darwin first visited the areas near the Galapagos Island, when he originally discovered the ground sloth bones, they were so fresh that he believed them to still be a living species of megafauna, proving the recency of their extinction. So why was it then that around 10,000 years ago, all of these species went extinct? Partly due to three strange reasons: large fires, a massive flood, and a sudden ice age. The evidence for these three events are widely known by archaeologists and research scientists found in the fossil record that showed that all around the Earth appeared to be massive fires that were followed by a rapid cooling event that only took about 4 decades, as well as certain events being hit by numerous tsunamis and large flooding. Many experts had originally speculated that perhaps a massive meteorite strike could have caused such a phenomenon, but no large craters supporting the theory had yet been discovered at the time of the original publications.
Wow.
However, this year, a massive crater under
That's fascinating. Oh my God. Like YouTube, social media, we learn so much more. You know, in school, we wasn't taught that there was a possibility that a meteorite hit the planet. We wasn't taught that. We were told that, but we wasn't taught that there was a possibility. He just said that theory was put out before there was definitive evidence to show that there was a massive crater that represented a meteorite hitting the planet that could have caused these wildfires to break out across the globe, only to be followed with a 4-decade-long ice age. Or between those wildfires and the ice age, there was 4 decades of, you know, that destruction. Man, I'm loving this.
beneath an ice sheet in Greenland shows a tremendous impact point where a meteor could have hit, generating more than 700 megatons of force. So much force, in fact, that it would have been equivalent to 140 fully efficient nuclear strikes using the Tsar bomber nuclear warhead. A nuke capable of not only breaking the stratosphere, but generating enough dust and debris in the air to cause a full-on nuclear winter. Any human civilization at the time, regardless of how advanced, would have been completely wiped off the face of the Earth in such a massive meteor strike. All of this happening at not only around the same time as a massive extinction event, but also around the same time the oldest civilizations would have been constructed. Could this be evidence then that perhaps the pyramids and the Sphinx, as well as many other advancements made in megalithic structures and creations, could actually more accurately come from the efforts of human beings from before this catastrophic event, and the Egyptians were merely the surviving peoples to pick up where humanity left off? Given the incredible advancements we have made in the past 10,000 years, this could very well mean that the humans before the event could have been significantly more advanced than we are today.
Wow, think about that. Think about that. Now, what evidence can show that the civilization before that crazy event that could have occurred 10,000 years ago, which still is confusing because wasn't there a similar event that occurred to wipe out the dinosaurs? The math ain't mathing for me all the way right now. But if those civilizations were indeed smarter than us, how come there's no evidence showing that they had the technology that we have? There's evidence showing that they had technology that we can't explain today, but this is crazy. It's like a reset. It's like a 10,000 year reset.
Old stories of gods and kings could very well have just been the technological advancements before humanity had to reset due to such a catastrophic tragedy.
He just said it.
Underwater lake discovered under the ocean. Comedically dubbed with the moniker of the hot tub of despair, it appears that research scientists have discovered a strange underwater anomaly that can only be described as an underwater lake so toxic that it is viewed as a large biohazard to life throughout the region. The underwater lake rests 3,300 feet below sea level in the Gulf of Mexico.
What? How is there a lake full of toxins that low? It's 3,000 feet? That is insanely deep. But it makes sense that it's a lake in the ocean because it would have to be toxic in order for it to be its own thing, right?
And seems to be at the center of a vast desert-like region of the ocean uninhabited by life. The lake appears to be a pit of water that is visible heavier and more condensed than the surrounding water, giving it the appearance of a naturally forming lake underneath the ocean. Research scientists have discovered that this lake is filled with extremely salty forms of water, much saltier than the water surrounding it, while being mixed with a rare form of dissolved methane that will instantly kill any sea creature that falls inside. This discovery was made by a research team from San Pedro that used underwater research vessels to help assist with the gathering of information surrounding underwater biology and geology. Although they were more than surprised by the appearance of the underwater lake and its toxicity, they were well aware of similar phenomenon found all across the world, described as brine pools. The discovery of this unique brine pool has helped shed light into the formation of such a phenomenon and the effect it has on surrounding marine biology and their habitat. It appears that an artificial wall of mussels living on the edge of the forming waters helped to keep the underwater lake intact and capable of maintaining its form in the ocean, a behavior never before seen in the region. Interestingly enough, despite this information gathered, it appears that researchers are still studying these occurrences as they find them to be very strange underwater anomalies and rare in nature. If more of these crater-like structures can be discovered in the near future, it might help to shed more light into the unexplainable nature of these underwater lakes and their effect on marine biology. The flashes before an earthquake. Referred to as earthquake light, it has often been reported that during an earthquake, people have observed strange lights appearing in the sky above them.
What?
The reports seem to coincide with areas near tremendous tectonic stress, such as seismic activity or volcanic eruptions. Originally, many researchers believed the flashes were nothing more than visual hallucinations by those experiencing the earthquake, and believing to see strange lights in the sky. However, given recent seismic activity, the occurrence of these lights have been proven, and many theories as to how they are caused range wildly. To this day, no one really knows what causes these strange lights, and some have gone as far as claiming that perhaps the lights are more supernatural in nature, as some sightings appear to have occurred moments before an earthquake even happened.
Yeah, which is what I thought was the case, is these lights, right? Occurring before the earthquake. What sense does that make? An earthquake is happening in the earth, but yet there's these lights flashing in the sky?
Other theories, known as the positive holes model, believes these earthquake lights to be caused by the sudden ionization of air. However, evidence for this theory has been dismissed and no supporting proof has been provided.
Okay.
One of the most overwhelming pieces of evidence in relation to the issue of national security regarding the story of extraterrestrial life is that of an alien known as Valiant Thor. Though many skeptics widely regard the existence of extraterrestrials as being an incredible impossibility, not only is there overwhelming evidence of extraterrestrial life having visited our pale blue planet, but that this life infiltrated the highest levels of government and manipulated high military intelligence officials before finishing his mission and leaving the planet with his gathered intelligence.
What?
The name of this extraterrestrial was that of Valiant Thor, and according to the evidence recovered, he is merely one of many others that have used the same tactics and strategies to infiltrate different levels of government security, proving the issue of extraterrestrials to be that of national security concerns and overwhelming threat of outside life. Back in 1967, the extraterrestrial community became aware of the book titled Stranger at the Pentagon, that detailed information regarding a possible extraterrestrial visitor that worked alongside military intelligence officials at the Pentagon in the United States. Though many believed that perhaps the book was nothing more than a hoax, recent news had surfaced about the legitimacy of the book when it was authenticated by the whistleblower Phil Schneider, who not only agreed that the book was a factual description of the events regarding the Pentagon, but that the extraterrestrial known as Valiant Thor worked alongside his father. In fact, Phil Schneider went on record and claimed that he had a picture of Valiant Thor and showed it to many different people at his lecture taken back in August of 1943, with irrefutable proof of the location being taken at a high military intelligence official location.
What?
Unfortunately, before further copies of the image could be created, Phil Schneider had been found dead shortly thereafter, making the last video recording of Phil Schneider the only evidence of his claims.
Excuse me, I got a little itch in my throat, but what? Yeah. Yep. Come on now. Why he dead? Why he died? They kill him? They kill him off? For what reason? Because he was speaking truth. He was exposing some truth. We have been visited. I told you guys. I told you. I always knew it. I always knew it. And according to my calculations, yeah, they're about to go ahead and expose the truth to us within the next 2 to 5 years. Just wait. Just wait. You're about to be surprised. We might even see what they look like.
And the picture he possessed, which can be found on YouTube today. Due to this, Phil Schneider's passing makes the last video clip recorded and the book the only surviving witness account of the events. According to the book, Valiant Thor landed on March 16, 1957, in Alexandria, Virginia, where two policemen approached the craft with their weapons drawn on the alien, only for him to immediately counter their attacks by using advanced techniques of what was described as thought transfer.
Hold on, y'all. I'm about to see if I can pull up a picture of him.
To essentially use mind control to manipulate the policeman to drop their weapons and drive him to Washington, D.C., which is exactly what they did without any hesitation or struggle. This would not be the last of the extent of this mind control tactic used, as Valiant Thor would then go on to manipulate high military personnel that allowed him to pass through high security posts to reach the Pentagon, and then furthermore the White House itself, to be granted an audience with their then United States President Dwight D. Eisenhower.
So is Valiant Thor human? A humanoid of some sort? He looks like us?
This is where the alien's dishonesty would shine and the clear statement of his intentions would come through. Valiant Thor made the incredible claim to the United States President that his mission was to come to the planet Earth and provide a means to not only grant free energy for all of the Earth's residents, but to usher in a new golden age that worked to solve all illnesses, deformities, crippling conditions, and so on, though never described an actual definition as to what he perceived as illness and crippling conditions.
If that is true, then Valiant Thor came to save humanity from itself. Because what do we do as a society? We use all those things that Valiant Thor mentioned for monetary gain. The medical industry, energy. He was going to offer us a way out of paying for energy. I'm pretty sure the US government or the Pentagon was like, nah, you can go ahead and go back to your planet with that BS. We trying to make money out here.
Though many supporters of Valiant Thor himself believe this to be a genuine want and proposition, here at Unexplained Mysteries, there appears to be overwhelming evidence for the contrary. In fact, it appears to be obvious that the intentions of Valiant Thor were far more sinister than expected. The striking noticeability of these sinister means was his blatant disregard for the rights to free will. All throughout the book and various witness accounts, it talks about how Valiant Thor used strange techniques in telepathy and mind control to gain access to high military intelligence or to trick individuals into helping him for various tasks and access points. These strange mental tricks, including making people act as a slave to his will, causing people to see odd and vivid hallucinations of all different kinds, as well as convincing complete strangers to trust him and become attracted to him as he gave lectures at random alien and UFO meetups across Virginia and Washington, D.C. These tricks and miracles would only become more and more horrifying in their nature as the true mission of Valiant Thor came to light. Even though the extraterrestrial visitor was a self-proclaimed savior of humanity, supposedly wanting nothing more than to provide a vaguely advanced technology capable of curing all disease and illnesses, as well as providing free energy, next to no effort was provided into completing this mission.
Well, he could have been lying. He could have been lying. He could have been like, what do the people of Earth need? A cure for illnesses, all illnesses, and free energy? I'm going to tell them that that's my agenda, but really it's to control them, like he was doing.
In fact, when Valiant Thor approached the President of the United States and came forward with his proposition, Dwight D. Eisenhower said that it could very well cause a danger to the industries of capitalism and to humanity in general if there were no struggles left to overcome.
That's crazy. That's crazy that the president thought that back then, because immediately when I heard what Valiant Thor mission was, that's exactly what I thought. I was like, Valiant Thor is trying to eliminate issues that we as a society work to overcome. That was the first initial thought that I had in mind. And that's not a good thing, honestly. We need to be able to overcome issues. That's how we find meaning and purpose in life. But that's one of the ways. But it doesn't go to say that if we eliminate the issues of energy, paid energy, and illnesses, that there won't be other issues to overcome. There will still be other issues to overcome. A plethora of issues. And who's to say that it won't go as far as new issues being created to make up for the two issues that were lost, or the multiple issues that were lost? If he indeed could do what he said he had the ability to do.
Claiming that obstacles and pain are the driving forces of human nature.
Facts.
And if a supposed peace on Earth were to exist, humanity would slowly devolve into nothing, and no great minds could prosper and solve issues if no issues existed.
This is true, but if all he was trying to do was to give us free energy and cure all illnesses, there would still be room for growth.
Essentially clarifying that if all our help came from an extraterrestrial force, humanity would be forced into a premature state of infancy, relying solely on extraterrestrial technology, and become an inherent slave race of these forces. After hearing this, Valiant Thor completely redacted his efforts to provide these technologies and seemed almost perfectly content with not helping humanity. In fact, the whole proposition turned out to be nothing more than an obvious bluff. Shortly after this, Valiant Thor then began to try to convince the United States president if he could take him aboard his spaceship and take him back to his home planet of Venus. Eisenhower then asked Valiant Thor where his home planet was specifically and what it was like. Valiant Thor then replied his home planet was the planet Venus, the second planet from the Sun, and that it was paradise on Earth with beautiful lush green forests and heavenly atmospheres. Of course, at this time, no one was aware what the surface of Venus looked like, and though the planet was known to have a lot of the same characteristics as Earth, nothing else more was understood. The truth is known today that the surface of Venus is a blazing hot planet, which is more hell-like in its appearance than anything Valiant Thor claimed for it to be, marking one of the first and obvious dishonest statements he would provide. Luckily, the president had the sense to refuse and instead had the extraterrestrial detained at the headquarters of the Department of Defense, known as the Pentagon. This move turned out to be exactly what the extraterrestrial visitor was hoping for, however, as Valiant Thor allowed many to believe he was contained within the Pentagon. But many other witness reports discussed personnel seeing Valiant Thor roaming around the area without supervision and accessing secret military intelligence files. It was believed that Valiant Thor was using a nearly supernatural ability, as many of these witness reports regarded seeing the alien in an ethereal form wandering around, but when they would enter the room he was supposedly staying in, he would be there acting as if nothing was going on. Shortly after these stunts, it became apparent that the alien could not be completely contained, and that he was perhaps acting as a spy to gather intelligence information for extraterrestrial forces. These tensions reached a climax after the Department of Defense began doing state-of-the-art testing against the clothing materials brought by Valiant Thor himself.
That's fascinating. So they said that, even though he was supposed to be contained to a specific room, people would say that they would see him wandering around freely or in rooms that he's not supposed to be in. And then when they go to the room that he's actually supposed to be in, he'll be in there acting as though nothing happened. Ah, that's fascinating. Either people were seeing things because they knew who he claimed to be, or he was actually moving about in a manner that is unexplainable by human nature and having some type of ability to know that he needed to go back or at least astro project himself in multiple places. Like this is interesting. I love hearing this story. Valiant Thor. I heard the name before, but I had never knew that what this was.
The materials were described as being completely indestructible in nature. When Valiant Thor became aware of these tests, he merely sniggered and explained that humans were not capable of causing any damage to his clothes or to himself, and seemingly laughed off the idea of being stopped. Threatened by this, the United States general conducting the investigations confronted Valiant Thor, seemingly immune to his attempts at mind control, and made a few key observations. The general brought up the fact that it seemed more than a little peculiar that Valiant Thor would make his appearance only after the invention and use of the nuclear weapon. The general then clarified that even though modern weapons were incapable of damaging the clothes and the extraterrestrial himself, he was more than aware of how an atom bomb works and how it not only annihilates all matter, but that due to the neutrino bombardment, atoms themselves are split apart, essentially threatening the alien that if a weapon can't hurt him, an atom bomb surely could. The general then made the rather brilliant connection that it appeared to him that extraterrestrials were now only getting involved as a ploy to gather military intelligence due to their fear of humanity's ability to now stand a chance in a fight. Valiant Thor then confirmed his sinister orders by not only clarifying that there were other extraterrestrial beings already infiltrating the United States, a supposed 77 others in fact, but that even more were walking amongst the human race all across the world, a number that would only continue to grow in the coming years. Not only does this wholeheartedly prove the extraterrestrial intention against the human race, but that the threat of these alien visitors as a national security safety concern is overwhelming in nature. But what do you all think of these stories and the philosophies of Valiant Thor? Be sure to leave your questions and answers in the comment section below and help us to grow this community while working to solve these unexplained mysteries.
This is so fascinating to me. I'm over here trying to think, what if this was a regular man that had some degree of intelligence, right? And was able to just pull this off. And for him, it was almost like a test, right? It's almost like, hey, let me test our national security to see exactly what they would do if they were faced with this sort of information and threat. And almost like this was just like his thesis. So he just, I don't know, man. This is so fascinating to me. The fact that this happened, wow, I love this story. Anyway, y'all leave your thoughts, comments, and opinions down below. Did you know about this story? Tell me more. I want to hear it. This is so good. And I'm gonna catch you guys in the next one. See ya. What?